Shalom. Call Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Give a double honors to the men who I learned this truth from, beginning at the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Barakatham to the hopefully elect. So I just came across this article and I wanted to. So okay, let me Okay, so yeah, I came across this article. Um, just dealing with more information about this whole Black Lives Matter movement and how it's pretty much nothing but a snare and a trap used to get a lot of Jake, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, get them, trapped up in this, the snare, another one of Esau's snares, another one of the snares of the devil. All right, because here it says, Black Lives Matter founder Patrice Cullors admits that chanting "Say Her Name" is called to resurrect a spirit from the dead to lead them. All right, so again, like I said, because it's out there now that these founders of Black Lives Matter, these women, all right, they're nothing but witches, all right, and they're using their this Black Lives Matter movement as one of their tools, which again, even that in itself, it was all set up by Esau Edom. But nevertheless, of course, we're going to get into the article and get into some of the precepts. So again, the title, that says Black Lives Matter founder Patrice Cullors admits that chanting "Say Her Name" is called to resurrect a spirit from the dead to lead them. It says the Black Lives Matter movement infuses a syncretic blend of African and indigenous cultures, spiritual practices, and beliefs, embracing ancestor worship, IFA-based ritual such as chanting, dancing, and summoning deities, and healing practices such as acupuncture, Reiki, therapeutic massage, and plant medicine. In much of its work, including protests, said Farag, hashtags for us are way more than a hashtag. Color says it is literally almost resurrecting the spirit so that it can work through us, that we can get the work that we need to get done. So you see, so again, they're pretty much necromancy is pretty much what this sounds like, what it's going into. All right, channeling up spirits from the dead to pretty much help these individuals perform their agenda, to help them get the work that they need to get done, you see. So, reading on, and a lot of this is old stuff, old news, but again, just for the simple fact that you got a lot of Jakes, they looking for some type of, Jake, they look for these things, being in a place, we've been in oppression so long, Jake just wants comfort and they want relief. This is why they flock to these things, the soothsaying and so on and so forth, right? So reading on, it says in a June 13th conversation between Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrice Cullors and Black Lives Matter's Los Angeles chapter co-founder Melina Abdullah. And that name alone, Abdullah, sounds like some type of African witchcraft, sorcery nonsense. But nevertheless, it says Abdullah discusses how the two of them have become very intimate with the spirits we call on regularly. And Cullors talks about how using a hashtag for Black Lives Matter is almost resurrecting a spirit so that it can work through us. So you see, again, and this is something that they apparently they practice on a regular. All right, but again, they pretty much, channeling up these spirits to give them strength or give them power or whatever, to communicating with these spirits. All right, to help them with their agenda. All right, and, a lot of people don't even know and understand that a lot of that, what's going on in these, just sticking with the focusing on Black Lives Matter. All right, people don't even understand that when they're out there protesting and rioting and whatnot, they're performing these rituals. All right, and they're letting loose all these demonic forces and whatnot. Jake, they don't understand these things. You know, so reading on, it says, the more we learn about Black Lives Matter movement, the worse it gets. Today we found out that the founders of Black Lives Matter, in addition to being self-admitted trained Marxists, which I did a video on that, going into how these Black Lives Matter founders, all right, these women, they're trained Marxists. All right, they they admitted they've admitted that they're trained Marxists as well as other things, right? Where's I at? It says are then followers of the Yoruba religion of West Africa. Yoruba is a spiritual system that uses sacrifices, very much like what is found in Santeria and voodoo, because that's pretty much what it is. It's voodoo. All right, it's witchcraft on the left hand. All right, it is demonic, and it is at the very core of what is driving the agenda of Black Lives Matter movement. You can hear it from themselves in the video below, which I'm not going to play the video, but that whole Yoruba religion, all right, pretty much well, actually that comes from a Hebrew word. It comes from a Hebrew word. I believe it's Yarayaba. Yeah, I think that comes from a Hebrew word. Yarabai or Yarayaba or something like that. I gotta fact check that, look into that. But basically, it comes from a Hebrew word that means to deceive, adversary. All right. But again, because that whole thing with Yoruba, it basically goes into, because they said, here it says it's a spiritual system that uses sacrifices, very much like what is found in Santeria and voodoo. All right, but they said it's like a spiritual system, which when you study your Yoruba, it pretty much goes into basically like seeking energy from other deities, other gods, all right, which is witchcraft, all right, and even more so is necromancy, because again, these women, they admit that they pretty much doing these rituals and these chants and whatnot to conjure up these spirits to help them, and help them with their agenda and things of that nature, all right, which is all the more reason why Jake needs to stay the hell away from these things. All right, because guilty by association, and if you get caught, when the Lord starts judging this place, if you're caught fooling around with these things, that's a heavy price to pay, because the scriptures, how the scriptures talk about not suffering a witch to live, right, and just dealing with witchcraft. All right. It also goes into spiritual fornication, and Lord's will I get that. But that's something that's very serious. That's a high crime against Yahweh Shemel Shai. And, that's something he doesn't take lightly. All right. So again, this is why I would say, just stay away from that. Stay away from that madness. When it comes to so-called Blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians, we're not supposed to be out there protesting, rioting, or being involved in any of that. Getting up, buying up guns, and doing all that stuff. We're not supposed to be dealing with that. right? Because our fight is not a carnal fight. Our fight is spiritual. But nevertheless, reading on, it says, Patrice colors on here. They just quote a scripture, 1 John 4, 1-3. You can read that if you want. But it says Patrice Colors goes on to say that the hashtags and repetitive chanting of say her name and say his name is actually a call to spirits to they are inviting in for the purpose of leading and guiding the BLM movement. So you see that again, conjuring up these spirits to help them accomplish their goals and their agendas. All right, because again, a lot of Jake doesn't understand. You're out there, you're doing all these chants and these rituals unawares. You're partaking partaking in this witchcraft. At the end of the day, this is what Jake doesn't understand. All right, it says this would explain the intense level of anger and hatred displayed on the part of the Black Lives Matter followers and why everything is centered around violence. Yeah, because again, you're conjuring up all these negative spirits, all these demonic spirits, and expecting some peace and justice, and you're expecting something righteous out of it. It's not going to happen. It doesn't coincide. It says, I would like to thank these ladies for their honesty in admitting that Black Lives Matter is primarily a religion that invokes spirits and confirming for us the spiritual nature of their cause. As I have always said, these riots are much more spiritual than they are social or political. But this religion is of the devil, as all religion is, and now we know exactly what we are dealing with. Yeah, you're dealing with witches. It says, now you know why they make all these shrines, why George Floyd had 5 funerals in a gold and bronze casket. These are their new gods, and Black Lives Matter is their Bible. All right. It says BLM leaders discuss resurrecting a spirit so that it can work through us. From CNS News, we're invoking our ancestors, states Abdullah. The conversation between the two Black Lives Matter activists took place after a live performance art event by Colors entitled A Prayer for the Runner. The performance was sponsored as a part of June Pride Month by the Fowler Museum at UCLA. Colors identifies as queer, and she is married to BLM activist Janaya Khan, who also identifies as queer. In addition to her Black Lives Matter activism, Melina Abdullah is the chairman of the Department of Pan-African Studies at Cal State LA. She also is a defender of Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. So you see, and that just hit me because been saying, one way or the other, they're gonna tie all this negativity, all the all these riots, all these terrorist attacks. They're gonna tie it all to the Hebrew Israelites. All right, just the fact that she's a defender of Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. So again, they're gonna tie all that to the Hebrew Israelites. Islam and all these other terrorist threats and all this other stuff. They're gonna tie. It's been saying Black Lives Matter. They're gonna tie that to the Hebrew Israelites as well, with all the violence and protesting and whatnot. So that's pretty interesting as well. And like I said, that name Abdullah, it sounds like some type of terrorist. That sounds off. But again, well, actually, let me read this. It says the Yoruba religion of IFA is a system of spiritual divination that is practiced in West Africa, the Canary Islands, and in South America. It is also practiced in the United States. Sacrifice is a fundamental part of IFA, and elements of the system are found in voodoo and Santeria. This is the spiritual basis of the Black Lives Matter movement. So you see, it's all based off witchcraft at the end of the day. All right, however you want to put it, it's all based off witchcraft and necromancy and conjuring up spirits. All right. But another thing want to point out is this is something that was based out of West Africa, which a lot of our people they're the west parts of Africa that's still there today after they fled the Roman persecution, and around 70 A.D. They fled to the northern and western parts of Africa, right? And you still got a lot of Jake over there today, all right? But um again, this is dealing with Africanism, which is a lot of Jake, they're trying to get in tune with their African origins and all that other nonsense, and Jake doesn't understand you're not African. All right, you're not Hamitic. Those are the real Africans are Hamites. All right, and this is a reason Yahweh Shem Yoshai told us not to be mixing and mingling with them when you read in Deuteronomy the 7th chapter. As well as all these other nations, because they're not going to do anything but lead you astray. All right, and this is a prime example. Dealing with this whole Yoruba, which I believe that's actually I believe those are Israelites as well. But nevertheless, we're getting into some precepts now. I want to read the rest of that garbage. Because again, this is going to get a lot of you Jakes destroyed, man, following after these false fables. All right, these people are telling you what you want to hear. Because again, like I said, Jake, they want to be told smooth things. Jake is looking for a quick answer, and there is no quick answer. We just gotta wait on Yahweh Shem Yoshai. So let me get this in Deuteronomy 18. Start at verse 10. Let's start at verse 10. It says, "There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, all right, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer." So again, because that's exactly what these founders of Black Lives Matter, these women, all right, which anything that's said about women, all right, that should be red flag then in itself. But nevertheless, these women, they are openly discuss these things, how they pretty much doing these rituals and these chantings and whatnot, and they're conjuring up these spirits to help them and to guide them to accomplish their agenda. They're openly proclaiming these things. And again, there's plenty of scriptures like one I just read here. All right, we're not supposed to be dealing with that. We're not supposed to be around it. Because again, the scriptures, like I quoted earlier, it talks about not suffering a wish to live. They're supposed to be put to death. All right. It's supposed to be burnt with fire, which, America ultimately is gonna it's nothing but a big giant altar. And ultimately, this place is gonna be, it's gonna become a sacrifice unto Yahweh Shem Yoshai. Ultimately, eventually, and these witches, the Lord's gonna take them out. And they're going to be a part of that great sacrifice. And this is why trying to warn you to stay away from these Black Lives Matter movements and all these other movements and whatnot, so you don't get caught up in this judgment. Right. So let me go to Exodus, the 34th chapter. Go to the verse 15. It says, "Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land." And that's exactly what, these women, these Jake women, all right, they're right now they're in this league, this pact, this covenant with Esau, Edom, all right, because again, the whole Black Lives Matter movement, it was set up by, these women, but it's being funded by Esau, Edom, all right, and the scriptures talk about how you're not supposed to trust your enemy, because eventually, they're gonna backstab you. they're gonna leave you, throw you under the bus and leave you out there by themselves, or leave you for yourself to fend for yourself. And that's what a lot of our women, they're gonna learn that the hard way, because how they how they treated their own men, right? They love Esau, Edom more than they do their own men. And again, a lot of these women, they're gonna, because a lot of women, man, they deal heavily with this witchcraft and sorcery. All right, not too long ago, less than a year ago, or maybe about a year ago, there was news and articles and things coming out about how black women, I'm not even gonna call them Israelite women, black women, all right, how they've been leaving the church, the Christian church, to pretty much indulge in witchcraft and get involved with these different African paganisms and all this other stuff, right? Because a lot of women, they like I said, they deal with they deal with this witchcraft heavily, all right? And this is why a lot of women, they're going to be judged, all right, severely, because again, when it comes to witchcraft, all right, that's something that the Lord doesn't take lightly. That's a serious crime against Yahweh Shem Shai. But reading on, it says, and they go a whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice. So you see, because again, this is why the Lord told us not to be mixing and mingling, especially with those Hamites, those dirty, filthy, stinking Hamites. All right, and this is a prime example, because you get caught up in the different paganism and whatnot, and this is why we've been brought down in the first place. This is why the Lord damn nearly wiped us out in the first place, because we got involved in these different ideologies, and we provoked the Yahweh Shem Shai to anger. Before I go to Wisdom of Solomon the 14, we'll get this in 2 Kings 17. I'll start at verse 14. It says, notwithstanding they would not hear, but hardened their necks like to the neck of their fathers that did not believe in Yahweh their power. And they rejected his status and his covenant that he made with their fathers. So yeah, you see, because again, our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they established these covenants with Yahweh Shem Shai. But again, you rather establish the covenant with these low life heathens. You rather side with them rather than your own power. Jacob's always questioning and wondering why they're always getting jacked up. It says, in his testimonies which he testified against them, and they followed vanity, and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom Yahweh had charged them, that they should not do like them. Because again, read Deuteronomy the 7th chapter. The Lord told us, not to be mixing and mingling our beautiful and precious seed with these dirty, filthy, stinking heathens, because this is what would happen. We get caught up in all their different philosophies, drunken with their wine, and it just be a mess. And jump down to verse 17. It says, and they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to the evil, to do evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger. So you see, the Lord's not with this. These enchantments and these divinations, dealing with familiar spirits and necromancy. The Lord's not with that. All right. Matter of fact, the Lord hates that. He hates these things. These things are considered abominations, and abomination to the Lord is something that he can't stand it. Like with Sodom and Gomorrah. Here it is. Yahweh Shem Shai, he's long suffering. He's patient, right? But when it came to Sodom and Gomorrah, he couldn't stand it. And eventually they got destroyed. That's how the Lord looks at these things. People think that Yahweh Shem Shai is just all love and all peace. No, man, the Lord, he hates. Yes, we know the Lord loves, but he hates as well. He hates a lot of things. He can't stand a lot of things. And this is one of them, dealing with witchcraft. Because again, that's what Black Lives Matter is. It's nothing but witchcraft used to get a lot of you jakes riled up, and eventually you're going to get destroyed. You're going to get caught up in the snare of Esau, Edom, the devil, and you're going to be destroyed by it. So let me get this in the Wisdom of Solomon. 14 and 12. Because again, this is what started, pretty much our downfall. We mixing and mingling with the nations. And well, let me just read it. And Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 12. It says, "For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life." So you see, this is why we got destroyed in the first place. All right, committing whoredom against Yahweh Shem Shai. Committing adultery spiritually and physically, but more so spiritually against Yahweh Shem Shai. Getting involved in all these different theologies or whatnot. We provoked Yahweh Shem Shai to anger. And this is why, he cast us off. I'm gonna go to Leviticus 20 and 6. Come on now, come on. Leviticus 20 and 6. It says, "And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits and after wizards to go a-whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul and will cut him off from among his people." So you see, because again, Jake, like sheep being led to the slaughter, man. You're gonna get involved in all this Black Lives Matter movement and whatnot, and you're turning to putting your trust in these familiar spirits and these witches and warlocks and these wizards, because again, this is the whole foundation of Black Lives Matter is built off. This is what it's built off. It's built off of witchcraft, and you're gonna put yourself in a position where the Lord, He's not gonna deal with you. He's gonna turn His face from you. And eventually you're gonna feel that wrath. So from there, I'm gonna go to Micah, because I said that this is things the Lord hates, man. He can't stand this. Lord can't stand a lot of things. He's just long patient, and he's just putting up with it for a time, until that time is it's out. It's no more. Let me get this in Micah 5 and 12. It says, "And I will cut off witchcrafts out of thine hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers." Because again, you see, with this whole Black Lives Matter movement, basically, because again, Jake wants to be comforted. They want to be told that everything's going to be all right, when everything's not going to be all right. It's only going to get worse before it gets worse, before eventually we get the kingdom. And we just got to deal with it right now. Pray to Yahweh Shem Shai, seek that repentance, or seek that mercy. We got to constantly be repenting, watching, and all these other things, because it's not going to get any better. All right. But again, Jake, they don't want to be told these they don't want to be told the truth. They want to be told soothing or soft words. And this is why they're turning to this witchcraft, where they're being told that we got to stand up and for one another and fight the injustices and all this other talking about reparations. Look, Yahweh Shem Shai, he's gonna bring all that down. He's gonna destroy all that. All right, because again, you're putting your trust more in everything else, but except Yahweh Shem Shai, the one who's causing all these different afflictions and whatnot. Let me go to Galatians. So Jake loves to get involved with these witchcraft and whatnot. Jake loves to get involved in these things. Galatians 5 and 19. It says, "Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies." Then it goes on to say, "Envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in the time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of the Most High." So, if you partake in these things, witchcraft is one of them. All right, you're not gonna make it on the side. Yeah, you're gonna come back in the kingdom through the loins of one of the elect, But if you're in the right state of mind, you want to be a part of the first resurrection. All right, you want to be, a part of, you want to obtain that glory and that fame of the 144, because you got a lot of Jake that talks about, oh, I'll come back in the kingdom, but that's a that's not the mindset to be in. Because again, you want to be a part of that first resurrection. All right, you want to be a part of the first fruits. All right, but nevertheless, you being involved in these things, witchcraft. All right, you're not gonna make it on the side, because eventually, ultimately, America is gonna become one big altar. All right, and there's gonna be this big sacrifice. America is gonna become it's gonna be turned into a big sacrifice, a lake of fire. All right, so you don't want to be a part of that. This is why we shouldn't be getting involved in these things. Stay away from them. All right, and from there I'm gonna go to the Wisdom of Solomon, the 12th chapter, in verse 4. It says, "Whom thou hatest for doing most odious works of witchcrafts and wicked sacrifices." So you see, the Lord hates these things. That's the point I want to bring out. Yahweh Shemel Shai, he hates these things dealing with witchcraft. All right, and so much, like I said, that's a high crime against Yahweh Shemel Shai. And it's punishable by death. And which again, if you if you continue to indulge in these things, ultimately, man, you're gonna perish a harsh death, man. All right, and eventually Yahweh Shemel Shai is gonna destroy you. So again, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians, it will behoove you greatly to stay away from the whole Black Lives Matter and any other movement that they get out there, and any upcoming movements that they're going to create, right? That may seem like, it's in our favor and in our defense. Wait upon Yahweh Shemel Shai. He's going to rise up to the prey. He's going to defend us. He's going to give us all the justice that we need, that we're seeking for. He's going to give us our reparations. All right, stop putting your trust in man and put your trust in Yahweh Shemel Shai. All right, stay away from those Black Lives Matter protests and rioting and all that other nonsense. Just stay away from it. So, I'm gonna end it there. Once again, giving all credit to Yahweh Shemel Shai. Double honors to the apostles and others of great millstone. Until next time, Shalom.